Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here with our Nilah first impression. So we're going to be going through the star powers, the starting deck, and then the upgrades you get from leveling up this champion. If you're enjoying all this Path of Champions content, definitely like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So for your first star power, each round copy the first fleeting unit or spell you play. So one of the strongest powers in the game, or debatably the strongest, is called Duplicate, and it's just copy the first cards you play every single round. Well, you kind of have that built in through your just first star power. As long as it's fleeting, it's going to be copied at least as long as the unit or spell, which is going to be what you're playing in most situations. Now, fleeting, they are discarded from your hand when the round ends, and that is actually very important because your second star power, Water Recycler, plus 1 starting mana, create a copy of the first 2 cards you discard each round in your deck, then draw 1 fleeting at next round start for each. So if you have a fleeting card that you don't play, it then is automatically going to get discarded at the end of the round, and then the cards that are discarded are being put back in your deck, and you're creating another fleeting card at the next round start. So you don't really have to worry about not being able to play your fleeting cards because they're not actually going away, and you are getting the benefit of creating more fleeting cards next round if you're not able to play them. So these pair very well together and set Nilah up to be a very strong champion. For your third star power though, now you're able to copy the first 2 fleeting cards you play every single round. Overall, these star powers seem very solid, so as long as she has a decent starting deck, she should be all set. Let's go take a look at that now. Alright, up first we have the list. So 0 cost slow, grant an enemy vulnerable. If it already has vulnerable, the strongest ally starts a free attack challenging it. So pretty strong. Being able to generate free attacks is very, very good. And the fact that this doesn't cost any mana is amazing. Next up we have Pool Shark. So 1 cost, 1/2. When I'm summoned to draw 1 at the next round start and grant it fleeting. So great way to start getting some fleeting card generation. This is a great 1-drop for you. Next up we have Hired Gun. So 2 cost, 2/3. When I'm summoned, grant the strongest enemy vulnerable. This pairs very well with the list, because you play this unit, give an enemy vulnerable, then you can play the list to get a free attack challenging that unit. So nice job right there. Then we have Nilah as another 2 cost, so 2 cost, 2/3 with Brash. Attack, create a Slipstream in the top 6 cards of your deck. That Slipstream, 1 cost burst, draw 2 and grant them fleeting. So great way to get some more cards, especially fleeting ones that you can potentially get duplicated. The level up is you've drawn 16 or more cards. Once she levels up, now she also has attack, deal 2 damage to all enemies and the enemy nexus. They can't drop below 1 health from this damage. So good amount of damage, but really the thing this is doing is making it so they can't block Brash units because their health will be too low. So solid effect. And then for your champion spell, you have the Formless Blade. So 1 cost burst, deal 2 damage to a unit. It can't drop below 1 health from this damage. So again, solid to damage enemy units, but again, this is mostly so that they can't block your Brash units. Next up, we have Pick a Card. So 2 cost burst. To play, place a card from your hand into your deck, draw 2 at the next round start and grant them fleeting. So again, great way to generate some more fleeting cards and just get some more draw, which will help you level up. Also notice that all these cards so far are still 2 cost or less, so you have a lot of cheap cards, which is very, very good. That means that when you draw a card, even though it's fleeting, you're probably going to have the mana to play it because your whole hand is just so cheap. Next up, we have Tidal Invocation. So 2 cost fast, deal 1 damage to a unit, spawn 1 for each damage dealt. So the higher damage this gets, the more you can spawn, and that spawn is just generating a tentacle and buffing it up. So it seems like a okay card and definitely one that will be able to benefit from if you can add more damage to this. With Nilah, you might want to consider using a Luden's Tempest. Probably not as your first rare relic, but maybe for like your second or third. Next up, we have the Slot Bot. So 3 cost, 1/4. When I'm summoned or round start, grant me 1 health for each card you drew last round, then shuffle my stats. So as long as you're drawing more cards, this unit is able to increase their stats and can turn out to be a pretty solid unit. Next up we have Vikrash the Exuberant. So 3 cost, 2/2 with Elusive and Attune. When I'm summoned, create a Slipstream in the top 6 cards of your deck. So a pretty strong unit. The stats are a little weak, but that's because you have such strong keywords and play effect. And then last up, the only card that costs more than 3 mana is the Buru Lookout. So 5 cost 4/3, when I'm summoned, spawned 3. So interesting that there seems to be a bit of a spawn playstyle here, both from this and your Tidal Invocation. Didn't think they'd really add that in, but it seems like it'll probably be a solid addition. So far, I think this is a pretty solid deck. They have a lot of things paired together, like Tidal Invocation and the Lookout, both giving you some decent amount of spawn. The List and the Hired Gun pairing very well together to challenge enemies and get some free attacks. And then things like the Pool Shark, Pick a Card, and the Exuberant, all able to help you get some more draw and those fleeting cards, which will be important for your star powers. The Slot Bot is a little random, but with all the cards you're drawing, it should be able to scale up quite well. All right, let's take a look at the champion level up upgrades. So first off, we have the Buru Lookout getting the Coral Crush Gauntlets, so 1 power and brash. A little interesting, normally the first upgrade is for one of your cheaper units, so a little strange that's going on your most expensive, but that upgrade seems fine. Next up, the List gets Hex Tech Fabricator, so it gives your strongest ally, or grants your strongest ally, a random common item. Pretty strong, especially considering the List doesn't cost anything. Next, Slotbot gets the Great Club, so Overwhelm. That is actually a very strong upgrade, so if this does roll with a lot of power, you can actually use that and not feel like you're missing out by getting blocked by a small unit. Next, Pool Shark gets the Saber, so it gets that Challenger. That seems okay, not necessarily great since it's such a weak unit. So yeah, it could be a bit better, I guess, but I guess that's fine. Next up, the Hired Gun gets Pickaxe, so going to be a 2 cost 4/3. That's definitely pretty powerful. Next up, Tidal Invocation gets the Charging Sigil. This is actually very strong, so giving that extra 2 damage, not only is this going to make this hit harder, but now the spawn is actually going to also be much better as well. So now it's going to deal 3 damage to a unit and then spawn 3 for each, or I'll spawn 1 for each damage dealt, which will be 3. So that's actually a very nice upgrade right there. That'll take that from kind of a mediocre spell to actually being quite strong. Next up, the Lookout gets the Entrancing Lure, so strike, draw 1. Solid addition, but again, this is your most expensive card that you're not going to be able to play for the first couple rounds, so a little sad that it's getting so many upgrades. Next, the Exuberant gets a Phage. That'll be very nice, so he'll be a 4/4 elusive, quite strong. Next, Pool Shark gets the Shadow Totem. So that'll be very nice since it has a summon effect, so summoning a ephemeral copy will double that up. So that'll be very good. And then since this has that Challenger from an earlier upgrade, you'll probably want to challenge with that ephemeral copy. Makes that Challenger a little bit better to have. Then for the last upgrade, we have Pick a Card gets Mana Potion. So this goes down to a 1 cost, making that even easier to play. Seems pretty solid. Overall, it's a pretty solid deck, and you have some good upgrades. This is potentially actually the best deck out of the 3. I think it works quite well together. As far as the upgrades, it's a little sad that your by far most expensive card is one of the ones that got multiple upgrades, because this is the card you're potentially going to want to cut, just because then your whole deck is 3 cost or less, which is very, very strong. Pair that with the fact that all your cards are getting doubled is pretty crazy. I think Riot has really done quite well this expansion, where all 3 of the champions seem to be incredibly strong, and they all have pretty well built decks. I am leaning though towards this one being the best deck out of the 3. Let me know down below what you think of this deck and the champion as a whole. Also, I will be putting out some leveling videos and videos of her versus Reliant Soul and guides and all that sort of stuff. So if you don't want to miss any of that content, definitely like and subscribe. And I hope you all have a great day.